Welcome to Midnight Movie Club and my breakdown for our first proper trailer of Neil Marshall's upcoming film, The Reckoning. Now there was a leaked trailer a little while back that I covered, but it was very different from this trailer, and I have to say it was nowhere near as good. I feel like this trailer is far better, but if you do want to know what was in that leaked trailer, then check that video out. I'll link it down below and in the corner in an annotation. But if you don't care or have already seen it, let's get stuck right into this new trailer. It opens with 1665, the Great Plague. As we know, the film takes place in England during the Great Plague of London, which was the last major bubonic plague to strike England. It lasted from 1665 to 1666, claiming around 75,000 deaths, though recently it has been estimated that the number of deaths was closer to 100,000, possibly even more. Apparently the plague of 1665 was caused by a certain strain of bacteria that was contracted through bites from infected rat fleas. Obviously though, in times of desperation and mass panic, people tend to become superstitious, and by 1665, witch trials had already been a thing throughout England. The Witchcraft Act of 1542 was England's first witchcraft law, enacted during Henry VIII's reign, so a witch trial here or there was commonplace during this time. With the people fearing for their lives and not being able to explain what's happening around them, they then turn to paranoid superstitions and reasons as to why these awful things were happening. In The Reckoning's case, the townsfolk turned to Charlotte Kirk's character Grace, but more on that later. As we move to the next shot of the trailer, we see a woman hanging in the streets, lit by moonlight and torch fire as a carriage passes. This is when we first hear Sean Pertwee's character, the witch hunter known as Moorcroft, speak. And he says, "A sickness hangs over the city, like putrid fog." It's just brilliant to hear Pertwee's voice again, as it's so captivating. He could talk about grass for hours and I'd honestly listen to every single word. His monologue in Dog Soldiers is still one of the most interesting parts of the whole movie, and it's just him telling a story by campfire. He's a great actor and I'm super keen to see him in this role. I have to say as well, some of the shots, especially this one right here and the others that are at night in this film, look stunning. The lighting and composition are all on point. The set design also looks pretty spot on for the period, and overall, doom and gloom of that time really do come across. Moorcroft then goes on to tell us bodies are piled high in the narrow streets. This is where we see the always creepy beaked plague doctors standing by a bucket load of dead. Moorcroft then says it's as if the day of judgment has finally arrived. As we see him whipping himself, this is probably a form of punishment he has for himself, a way to repent to his lord or something like that, for not being able to root out the witch he believes to be the one causing this sickness. The trailer then shows us one of the witch trials as Moorcroft orders a woman to be burnt at the stake in front of her family and some townsfolk. I really am digging the costume design that we are seeing here. The look for Moorcroft looks to have been inspired by quite a famous witch hunter called Matthew Hopkins. I wonder if his character was loosely based on Hopkins, as he was around in the 1600s as well, although Hopkins was said to be in the witch hunting game for money, not because of extreme faith, whereas Moorcroft looks like he takes it quite seriously and does really believe in it. The trailer then starts to show us more of Grace as she is told to leave town while she can. Grace's husband has actually recently died by the hand of this plague, but she is fine. This is probably why people become suspicious of her, as she has not contracted the virus, but her significant other has passed due to it. We then see mention from the townsfolk in the local pub that they seen her acting peculiar, and that there is only one thing for it, and that's for her to be tried, as she has made a pact with the devil to survive. As they chat, we see Grace go through town, possibly trying to leave, as we see the paranoia set in within the people. They're painting markings on their doors, and we also see stray dogs eating the dead on the streets. Moving on, Grace is having visions of her dead husband as something seems to be tormenting her in her sleep. Has she chose to become a witch, or is she forced to become one? Maybe these visions are the start of her turning and being seduced to dark supernatural forces. Anyway, the townfolk then lynch Grace and burn her house down in the process, as they probably think it has some sort of supernatural trinkets within it. They then take her to Moorcroft. As she is in prison, she learns from another woman that they will try to break her, try to get her to confess to being a witch. It was all pretty pointless a process, to be honest. In those times they used to drown women they believed to be witches, and if they sank they were forgiven and their souls went to heaven, and if they floated they would be burnt at the stake. Either way, you are going to die. Saying you're a witch or not saying, it's pointless. All this is probably just one big ego trip for Moorcroft, so he can feel holier than now, holier than anyone else in the town. Although it does seem like something does come into contact with Grace, and Moorcroft may well have bitten off more than he can chew this time, so let's keep going. Moorcroft tells Grace salvation is at hand, then plonks her on a torture rack with a very Saw-esque metal helmet. I'm guessing each limb of hers that is tied down is going to be pulled in the opposite direction every time she says that she is not a witch. I believe that it is through these torture methods that something will awake inside Grace, and she will turn to the darker forces for her salvation. Moorcroft could be creating a monster, not killing one. Moving on, we then see the start of some sort of supernatural force at play as locked doors begin to open on their own, candles blow out and fire even erupt seemingly by itself. It's a really cool, creepy montage edited together really well with the hissing sound of Grace's breaths. We see her free and fighting back, with it all ending with her praying and looking innocent just before we get the coolest shot of the trailer. Grace is stood in her cell naked at night, being hugged by what seems to be the devil itself, with a white scaled clawed hand running down her back and what looks like wings coming out from either side of it. This shot is also met with an evil screech before cutting to the title card. Now in this trailer we do not see the creature's face, but in the leaked trailer we did, and I'm sure if you Google hard enough you will find it. It does kind of look like a crawler from The Descent, just with horns, so yeah, pretty devilish. It does look super creepy, and the practical effects on it looked really good, and still look great here. The closing shot is fantastic and the wings look greatly proportioned, and you can really feel the weight when they open up. Like I said in my first breakdown, I don't think Grace was a witch to start the film off, and the plague has just been the plague. She has been lucky to survive it, but then unlucky to be tried as a witch. But while in this horrible situation, she is vulnerable and attracted a dark spirit that offered her a helping hand, and it looks like she takes it. But once she does, there is going to be no going back, and in the end becomes the evil that the town all thought her to be. Anyway, that's what I think. Let me know in the comments what you all make of it. I'm keen to hear if you're all looking forward to this one like me. It's good to see Marshall back in the horror genre either way. If you did enjoy this trailer breakdown, then please do leave a like on the video, and if you haven't already, then subscribe to join the club. As always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.